Hi there, I'm Courtney Friel coming to you from the KTLA studio. I really wish I could be presenting in person, but we all know things are different right now. It is my honor and pleasure to virtually welcome law enforcement officers, officials, and esteemed guests from Riverside and San Bernardino counties to the annual MADD Law Enforcement Recognition Awards. This event is designed to recognize the outstanding work of law enforcement professionals in DUI enforcement. Each arrest is a potential life saved, and MADD awards their service as they dedicate their lives to keeping our roads safe. For 40 years, Mothers Against Drunk Driving has been the nation's leader in an unwavering fight against this 100% preventable crime by changing the apathetic culture surrounding drinking and driving. Since 1980, highway deaths caused by drunk driving crashes have been cut in half. Consequently, this success has created a misconception that drunk driving is no longer a major issue. However, this is not the case. Drunk driving crashes remain a major cause of death and injuries on America's highways, with over 10,000 fatalities and 290,000 injuries annually, all of which are preventable. Here in California, there are over 1,000 DUI-related deaths annually. Drunk and drug driving comes with a cost and is one that robs us of mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, spouses, and friends. With the help of those who want a safer future, in 2006, MADD launched its campaign to eliminate drunk driving to end this danger on American roads. The campaign to eliminate drunk driving will get this nation to 0 deaths through equal parts prevention and invention. The 4 pillars of the campaign are: 1, high visibility law enforcement; 2, ignition interlock devices; 3, autonomous vehicle technology; and 4, driver alcohol detection systems for safety, or DADS. During this challenging and difficult period, the organization continues to provide free services to victims and families of drunk and drug driving and educational programs to discourage underage drinking. Programs and services are even being offered virtually to maintain and increase awareness and prevention. But MADD cannot do this without the help and support of people like you. So please join us in the $5 challenge and the One MADD California Giving campaign. Funds raised through One MADD California will go toward the organization's victim services and research-based programs to continue their goal of no more victims. Statewide supporters can donate through the phone or online. Help us achieve MADD's mission to end drunk driving, help fight drug driving, support the victims of those violent crimes, and prevent underage drinking. At this time, we would like to present comments from the MADD National President, Ms. HELEN WITTY.
Hello, I'm HELEN WITTY. I'm the National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I'm here today in California, virtually, of course, to thank law enforcement for the work they do to keep everyone in this state so much safer. Without the work you do on our roads, there would be so many more victims. So MADD wants to recognize you today for the work you do on our roads and to thank you for what you do. I didn't come to MADD by my choice. I came here because of someone else's choice to drive after drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana. My 16-year-old daughter came home from high school one afternoon and was nervous. She said, "I'm going to go work off my stress. I put on my rollerblades. Don't worry, Mom, I'll be right back. I love you." And I never saw her again. That same day, another girl who had chosen to work her stress off with alcohol and marijuana ran my daughter down while my daughter was on that bike path. Our lives changed forever. My daughter's life ended, mine did not. And MADD was there to help me put back the pieces, but they also introduced me to the work that law enforcement does. I got to see firsthand the work you do on our roads that's so dangerous for you to do and yet saves so many lives. Thank you. MADD also introduced me to the detective who had notified me of my daughter's death. And I was able to see the work he does and to work with him to help stop this crime. So while everyone is here today to thank you and recognize you for the work you do on our roads, I'm also here today to thank you for the work you do off of our roads, for the work you do when you walk alongside a victim, when you take off that armor that you wear every day, I mean that emotional armor, and you take it off so that you can walk and talk with a victim. Thank you for that. You help us heal as well as saving our lives. So thank you.
A welcome from California State Executive Director, Patricia Rillera.
Greetings, esteemed guests, sponsors, victims, and honorees. Welcome to MADD California's 2020 Virtual Law Enforcement Recognition event. My name is Patricia Rillera. I am the California State Executive Director for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. It is MADD's California's honor to host and recognize you today. To our honorees, please accept this virtual recognition as just a small token of our appreciation, which validates and honors your contributions to keeping our streets safe. You are truly an essential part and a valuable member of the MADD California family. The MADD Law Enforcement Recognition Awards are an annual MADD event that recognizes excellence in DUI enforcement while creating awareness and community support for law enforcement efforts to eliminate impaired driving. This year, virtually, the event will recognize law enforcement honorees for the number of impaired driving arrests made annually. Each arrest is a life saved, and MADD California applaud your dedication to keep our roads safe. During 2019, MADD California staff and volunteers happily traveled all over California delivering MADD's core programs and services, all of which are free of charge to the public. These volunteer-based programs include, but are not limited to, victim advocacy, underage drinking prevention programs, community engagement, and the campaign to eliminate drunk driving. So what does MADD really do? That's a question that I get all the time. MADD provides services to victims and families of drunken drug crashes at no cost, successfully lobby to support stronger drunk driving laws, deliver underage drinking prevention strategies to thousands of teens, and we are single-handedly responsible for changing the apathetic culture surrounding drinking and driving. This year, 2020, marks the 40th anniversary of MADD's impact across the country. Through the efforts of MADD, over the past 4 decades, highway deaths caused by drunk driving crashes have been cut in half. That's very impressive. However, drunk driving continues to be a leading cause of death and injuries in our country. Drunk driving has claimed the lives of over 1,000 people here in California alone in 2018. Every single one of those deaths is 100% preventable. As we celebrate MADD's 40th year anniversary as the grassroots organization that started the cultural revolution that made drunken drug driving unacceptable, we ask that you acknowledge our heroes in law enforcement and take a stand with us at #OneMaddCalifornia to further a future with no more victims. In closing, I'd like to extend a special thank you to our sponsors, community partners, and the district attorney's offices. Thank you for your continued support of MADD's efforts. Again, to all of the honorees, it is our honor to acknowledge your outstanding leadership in saving lives. Keep up the good work, and congratulations.
Next, opening remarks from Inland Empire Program Manager Jackie Townsend and Senior Program Specialist Larissa Guillen.
Good morning and welcome to our virtual 2020 Inland Empire Law Enforcement Recognition. Today we are here to honor real heroes, the hardworking men and women of law enforcement who work diligently to remove impaired drivers from our streets. Despite COVID and utilizing this new virtual event platform, we want to make sure we thank you for what you do, and it is our pleasure to honor you today.
Law enforcement represents the first prong and what many deem as the most crucial part of our campaign to end drunk driving, the high visibility of law enforcement. The amount of arrests reported for the Inland Empire MADD Awards in 2019 for the Riverside County are 4,359 arrests, and San Bernardino County, 3,849 arrests. Combined, that is 8,208 arrests for the Inland Empire. That is a remarkable number, so once again, thank you for all of your efforts to keep our roadways safe.
Sadly, in spite of these efforts, impaired driving continues to be a leading cause of death and injuries on the roadways in our country. MADD won't stop until drunk driving does, because one empty seat at the table is one too many. With your help, we will arrive at a destination of 0 deaths and injuries. Together, we will see our dream come true of no more victims.
MADD Inland Empire looks forward to collaborating with you on underage drinking prevention programs, and we invite you to join us at our victim impact panels. Additionally, please do not hesitate to contact or connect Jackie and I with any families who unfortunately have become victims and or survivors of an impaired crash.
As we honor outstanding life-saving efforts today, I would like to take a moment to thank our Inland Empire sponsors: Rialto Water Services, Lewis Management, the City of Rialto, San Bernardino County Supervisor Kurt Hagman, Rialto Police Officers Association, California Highway Patrol Police Officers Association, San Bernardino Police Officers Association, Chino Police Officers Association, San Bernardino County Sheriff Employees Benefit Association, Ontario Police Officers Association, Riverside Sheriff's Association, Palm Springs Police Officers Association, and Desert Hot Springs Police Officers Association.
In closing, your efforts validate that you care about our vision to eliminate impaired driving crashes. MADD Inland Empire could not accomplish what we do without your help, and we know that. I would like to thank everyone who had RSVP'd and planned to attend this event in person. We appreciate your support and are looking forward to seeing you at next year's law enforcement recognition. Additionally, Jackie and I plan to visit each of your agencies to ensure you receive your 23-152 pin and its inaugural year, the 655 pin for boating under the influence arrests. Again, congratulations to all of our awardees. It is an honor to acknowledge your efforts in saving lives.
Now we will tell you a story that MADD knows all too well. We begin with our mission moment and the reason why MADD was founded and exists today to honor and serve victims and survivors. Introducing Renee Potter as the honorary victim speaker.
Hi, my name is Renee Potter. I wanted to start by saying thank you for the job you do, for the lives you touch every day, lives that you might not even realize you touch. Over the past 4 months, a tremendous burden has been placed upon the shoulders of our law enforcement officers, and honorably you have stood up to the challenge. Today, you are being honored for helping remove drunk and impaired drivers from our streets, and in doing so, saving families from a horrific experience. My 15-year-old son was killed by a drunk driver almost 2 years ago. The first time I met Andrew was shortly after he turned 3. He was in my preschool class for students with special needs. Andrew had been in foster care since he was 18 months old. He was a shaken baby, beaten so severely doctors hadn't expected him to live through the night. The Andrew I knew was a bouncy, happy, sweet, lovable little boy and warmed my heart. And 6 months later, my fiance and I became his foster parents. He quickly became loved by our whole family, and he was the ring bearer at our wedding. And 18 months later, his adoption was finalized. He was in his forever home. He became a big brother to twins, a brother and a sister. Andrew loved music, sports, especially basketball. Unfortunately, all the love that we could give Andrew was not a match for the damage done to his brain at 18 months old. As he grew, he had various therapies and supports to help overcome the effects of the brain damage he suffered. Through middle school, he began to demonstrate behaviors that were increasingly more dangerous to himself and our family. Andrew needed more support than we could provide at home. He needed special treatment and had to go to a residential facility out of state. We visited Andrew as often as we could, about every 6 weeks. Either myself, his dad and I, or the whole family would take trips. We participated in his therapy, and we were able to see the progress he was making. And in 11 months, we were excited to be planning for his discharge and transfer to a step-down residential facility here in California. But 3 weeks before he was to be discharged, at 6 p.m. on the Friday night of Labor Day weekend, we received a call from the facility telling us that Andrew had run away with 2 peers. Staff had called to look for the boys, and a short time later, the local police were called, and the boys were reported missing. My husband and I decided not to tell our twins, as they would be worried for their brother. We were confident that the boys would return soon. As the evening wore on, I checked with the facility several times, but they still had not returned. Shortly after 10 p.m., as I was tucking my youngest son into bed, he said, "I have a hole in my heart, and I don't know why." He was worried about his brother, and I thought I had been careful not to mention anything around him or his sister. But maybe they overheard. We talked about how Andrew would come closer to home and we could see him more often, and hopefully by Halloween he would be able to make weekend visits home. Not able to sleep myself, I went downstairs and found my younger son watching TV. We sat together and eventually he drifted off to sleep. I began to search for flights. I had to do something, but there was nothing till morning, and that would be standby. Horrible scenarios ran through my head as I sat there watching TV. Where could he be? Why hadn't he been found? Shortly before 3:30 in the morning, there was a hard knock on the front door. I immediately knew something horrible had happened. There were 3 police officers standing at my door to tell my husband and I that Andrew had been hit by a car and had not survived. The officers told us that the driver was suspected of DUI, that he had left the scene but was located and arrested a short time later with the help of witnesses. I felt as if my heart had been ripped out of my chest. I felt a pain so deep, nothing like I've ever experienced before in my life. I didn't want to believe the officers were telling me. I traveled for all of the court hearings. This meant a 6 a.m. flight, then a 40-minute drive to the courthouse. Many times the hearing only lasted 10 to 15 minutes. Then it was a late flight back. Most times not arriving at home until after midnight. I only took 1 day off of work as I was trying to conserve my time in case it went to trial. At the first court hearing, I remember hearing horrible details as the defense attorney tried to make the crash somehow look like my son's fault. Yes, he had crossed the street on a red light. Yes, he had made some poor decisions that night. But hearing the witnesses report that the driver had not slowed down, that he was hanging his head out of the driver's side window because the windshield was smashed, he couldn't see through it. Hearing the officer explain in detail the diagram of the crash site, that my son's body flew over 100 feet before coming to a final rest. The description of the damage done to the car, including that my son's brain matter was believed to be on the windshield. My younger son remembers the feeling he had that night, that his brother died. For many months after, any time he had an uneasy feeling, he became fearful for family. And I would have to call everybody to check and see if they were okay. He was worried something bad would happen. He became overly cautious when crossing streets or parking lots. He would panic when he saw a car coming. Even though it was at a safe distance, he would scream a panicked fear. My son remembers that feeling he had that night his brother died. And for many months after, any time he had an uneasy feeling, he became fearful for his family. I would have to make phone calls to check and see if everybody was okay. He became overly cautious, especially when crossing the street or in a parking lot. Even if a car was at a safe distance, he would scream a panicked, fear-filled scream as he attempted to warn the person who was closest to the car. Afterward, he was brought to tears and trembles. My daughter tried to keep her emotions to herself to protect me, so I didn't worry about her. 2 months after Andrew's death, while at school, she told a friend that she didn't want to live in this cruel world anymore. She had several ideas about how to take her own life. And I would think the choice a man made to get behind the wheel of a car after drinking not only took my son's life, but could also cause me to lose my daughter. 9 months later, the driver changed his plea from not guilty to guilty. He had a blood alcohol content of 0.189. The driver received a sentence of 5 years community corrections. This is not jail time. He lived in a house with residential supervision, and he had access to his community, and he was able to work. Just before Father's Day of this year, I received a phone call from Community Corrections, letting me know that the driver would be released from the residential program. He would still participate in all of the meetings and classes that were required, but he would be home to spend Father's Day with his father, while we would endure our second Father's Day without our eldest son. All I can do now is pray that losing my son will in some way benefit someone else's life. Someone who witnessed the crash, someone who knew Andrew, someone who heard me tell my story, someone who had been in the courtroom at some point throughout the hearings. I pray that someone who hears Andrew's story will make the decision to use a designated driver. But most of all, I pray that telling my story here today will help you understand that the work you do will prevent another tragedy from happening, another family from experiencing the horrific pain of losing a loved one to an impaired driving crash, the pain of having a hole in your heart, a hole that will never be healed. Thank you for all the arrests you have made, and I want to thank you on behalf of the families that you spared from losing a loved one, because they will never know the impact you have made on their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee, for sharing your family's tragic story. Next up, our district attorneys from San Bernardino County and Riverside County have joined us today and would like to share a few words.
The district attorney's office has had a long history of collaborating with MADD and the Inland Empire. We have collaborated with MADD to try to reduce the instances of DUI driving, and particularly DUI driving that would lead to injury or death. Part of that collaboration has been not only the component of holding people responsible who are guilty of DUI and DUI with injury, but also the education component of getting out into the community and letting people know the dangers and harms of DUI driving, educating them in terms of what the proper legal limit is to drive, to go into the schools and make kids aware of the dangers of that, and also on the enforcement side to work with our law enforcement partners to continually educate them in the proper techniques to identify DUI driving and to enforce it, and to assess the appropriate punishments, and then following up with convictions in terms of the education component of people who have been convicted to make sure that they don't do it again, being aware obviously of the horrible dangers and the risks that would be involved if someone were to subsequently drink and drive and injure somebody. We take great pride here in the district attorney's office in leading our prosecutors in regards to DUI prosecutions. Every new prosecutor gets significant training on DUI cases because we realize the severity of a DUI and the potential for it to cause injury in the community and to have a significant impact on victims. We train young lawyers on how to prosecute DUI cases, whether it's the science behind it, understanding the training that law enforcement goes through to be able to successfully investigate a DUI. We put significant emphasis on DUI with injury or death through our Office of Traffic Safety Prosecutor, that is a grant position that we task with an experienced prosecutor that is vertically assigned to very difficult cases as a result of the impact that DUI with injury or death have in the community, so that there can be one person that they speak to and deal with. MADD has been instrumental in assisting us with this. They're integral in terms of coordinating with us on whatever needs that we have, whether it be victim advocacy, educational component, or being there and helping us fill the gaps for victims and giving us the resources we need to prosecute these very important cases. My message to the people of San Bernardino County is this as it relates to DUI. we're in a unique time in the middle of a pandemic where we take every measure that we can to try to prevent the spread of the virus. We need to do the same thing with the DUI. We need to do everything we can to prevent anybody who is impaired getting behind the wheel of a car or a boat. These are things that can be prevented, certainly with the options of all the rideshare companies that are out there and friends. There's no reason for anybody to get behind the wheel of a car who's impaired. And that's why I want everyone to stand with MADD and think of #OneMADDCalifornia. Because if we stand with them, then together we can reduce and eliminate the number of impaired drivers there are out on the road.
Hello, my name is Mike Hestron and I'm the Riverside County District Attorney. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I want to take a few minutes just to talk to you about our office's approach to impaired driving of all kinds, including DUI alcohol and DUI drugs. I started here as a prosecutor almost 23 years ago, which means I started prosecuting misdemeanor cases. And among the cases that I prosecuted were DUI cases. And I'm proud to tell you that back then and still today, this office takes a hard line and a tough stance on impaired driving of all kinds. We typically do not dismiss a first offense. We don't reduce a first offense. We don't routinely engage in giving wet recklesses or any kind of lesser offense for impaired driving. And the reason for that is quite simple. We understand at this office that drawing a hard line, taking a tough stance on impaired driving saves lives, period. And that's our job. Our job is to protect the public, save lives, and bring justice to those who've been harmed. And DUI laws are important. Yes, they're misdemeanors, but they're important misdemeanors, and we have an important job to do in prosecuting those cases. I want to also tell you that MADD is an important organization. We collaborate and have collaborated with MADD for many years. A lot of our offenders are sent to MADD impact panels where they get a sense of the true consequences of their actions. A lot of people engage in what they think of as harmless behavior, being buzzed, being drunk, being impaired, and they don't quite understand the potential ramifications of that decision in a split second in time. And so MADD has been an important ally to this office and will continue to be. I want to let you know that these policies and these practices and this belief and this philosophy is shared by all of our 250 prosecutors in this office, and we're going to continue to do this important work. I also want to let you know that as an office, myself included personally, we stand with OneMADDCalifornia to end impaired driving. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco.
Hello, I'm Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. To start, I would like to thank everyone associated with MADD for hosting this event. Additionally, I want to thank all of the officers and deputy sheriffs who not only have excelled in their enforcement of DUI drivers, they have taken a very enthusiastic approach to keeping our communities safe from the consequences of people driving while under the influence. As law enforcement professionals, we take our job seriously and strive to do the best job possible. We do this because we are passionate, because we want to make a difference, and because we want safer communities. We're not looking for recognition. However, the MADD Law Enforcement Recognition Awards remind us of the good job we are doing, its importance, and provide that little thank you that pushes us to do better. The men and women being honored here use these types of awards to work harder each and every year. I'm very proud of the fact that the Riverside Sheriff's Department has collaborated with MADD for years, going back to when I was a deputy making DUI arrests. Whether it's targeted enforcement or educating our youth through the Every 15 Minutes program, the working relationship between MADD and law enforcement must never be taken for granted. I am proud to say that we have recently revitalized our Drug Recognition Expert program in an effort to train as many deputies as we can to reverse the increase in driving while under the influence of marijuana and other drugs. MADD's mission cannot be realized without the hard work of dedicated volunteers, hardworking law enforcement officers, and the support of the general public. Education is unfortunately expensive. I would like to encourage everyone, especially those living in Riverside County, to get involved with MADD. Whether it is through volunteering your time or with monetary assistance, every little bit helps. Each and every dollar raised helps reduce the damage caused by drunk and drugged driving. In today's age of rideshare apps and designated driving programs, there is no reason why we cannot achieve zero. As Sheriff of Riverside County, I stand with One MADD California to end impaired driving. Thank you and be safe.
Thank you so much, Sheriff Bianco. We are honored to also have San Bernardino County Sheriff John McMahon to say a few words.
Thank you, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, for hosting this special event. We appreciate the partnership and great relationship we have had with MADD Inland Empire over the years. The free services you provide to the community and families who have been affected by impaired driving are outstanding. Recognition awards like these show the dedication and vital partnership between law enforcement and community partners and highlights the importance of combating driving under the influence. Our department takes DUI education, prevention, and enforcement seriously. Amid the pandemic, we remain committed to DUI enforcement and support programs that educate the community on the dangers associated with alcohol and drug use. Our deputies continue to work hard to identify and arrest those operating their vehicles under the influence. But the number of DUI arrests are still far too high, and they emphasize the need for continued efforts of MADD. On behalf of the men and women of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, thank you for your continued support and for recognizing the great work by law enforcement members from San Bernardino and Riverside counties. We support One MADD California and their efforts to end impaired driving.
Next, CHP Inland Division Chief Dan Miner.
MADD Inland Empire has been a valuable partner to the California Highway Patrol's Inland Division. Our collaboration with the Inland Empire Walk Like MADD has been a great platform to raise awareness and educate the community on the dangers and consequences of drunk driving. We've also collaborated with MADD Inland Empire to educate our youth and prevent underage drinking through our Start Smart and Every 15 Minutes programs. Law enforcement recognition events are important to reaffirm the work of our law enforcement officers, and they reinforce the appreciation of their dedication to keeping our community safe. These events highlight the officers' hard work and dedication to eliminating driving under the influence. More importantly, these events give officers the opportunity to hear from and meet victims of driving under the influence. For law enforcement, meeting victims and their families provides valuable perspective and helps them understand the importance of their work. DUI enforcement for the California Highway Patrol has not changed. Although our officers are taking precautions to ensure the motoring public is safe during contacts, we are still out in full force looking for impaired drivers and taking appropriate enforcement actions to ensure our roads are safe for travel. DUI didn't stop, and neither have we. The California Highway Patrol and Mothers Against Drunk Drivers share a very similar mission, and that is to save lives. The devastation caused by impaired drivers is all too real. As a community, we must work together to ensure awareness of the dangers created by impaired driving. Through constant education, consistent enforcement, and working together as a community, we can make sure that the dangers and consequences of driving under the influence are forefront in the public's mind. I stand with One MADD California to end impaired driving.
Last but not least, representing our IE agencies, Chino Police Department.
Hello, I'm Wes Simmons, Chief of Police for the City of Chino. I'd like to first commend all of the officers in the Inland Empire for their hard work and dedication to keeping our communities safe amid one of the most challenging times in our noble profession's history. Law enforcement's focus has always been to protect and serve, and you do this with excellence every single day. DUI enforcement remains a priority in keeping our roadways safe. We believe in the work MADD is doing in our communities, and we see them as a natural partner in this fight against impaired driving. Our common goal is to ensure our community members are safe and to create a future where victims of impaired drivers are a thing of the past. During these difficult times, we ask our communities to remain vigilant and focus on doing all you can to stay healthy. If you choose to drink, have a designated driver or use a rideshare. There is no excuse to drive impaired. Lastly, I'd like to congratulate all of the officers who are being recognized today and thank you for your service.
Hi, I'd like to welcome everyone again to the 2020 MADD Awards. You know, this is a unique time for us because we've had to move this from a luncheon that that we normally do, and we have to do this now virtually because of COVID-19. But we don't want this to detract from all the efforts of every police officer and deputy sheriff in both counties, San Bernardino and Riverside, that have really put forth a lot of effort to encourage people to not drink and drive, but yet holding those folks accountable that refuse to adhere to our laws about operating a motor vehicle on our roadways. So today is going to be an extremely important day for us because we can honor all the awardees from both counties virtually and know that their efforts of eradicating driving under the influence and boating under the influence individuals from our two counties did not go unnoticed. So this is an exciting time for us, and over the next several minutes we're going to read all of the awardees' names and give them the recognitions that they so deserve. I want to start with our Deuce Awards, up to 49 arrests, and want to recognize, first of all, the CHP out of Barstow, and that's going to be Officer Christopher McCracken, who has 28 arrests. CHP Indio, Officer Derek Thomas with 44 arrests. Officer Raymond Chavez with 40 arrests. Officer Alberto Ramirez with 38 arrests. Officer Heriberto Jimenez with 36 arrests. Officer Christian Cuddington with 35 arrests. Officer Spencer Serving with 29 arrests. Next, I'd like to recognize the CHP from the Morongo Basin, Officer Simon Miller with 32 arrests. Officer Ryan Swanson with 29 arrests. Officer Bradford Thomas Salinas with 28 arrests. Officer Joan Griffin with 26 arrests. Next is the CHP out of the Rancho Cucamonga Station, Officer Eric Lizarraga with 48 arrests. Officer Rigoberto Almos with 47 arrests. Officer Donald Lindberg with 40 arrests. Officer Elias Granado with 40 arrests. Officer Gabriel Menendez with 39 arrests. Officer Ernesto Gudino with 39 arrests. Officer Daniel Murphy with 38 arrests. Officer Brian Baker with 35 arrests, and Officer Mark Nelson with 26 arrests. Out of the CHP Riverside office, Officer Javier Navarro with 48 arrests. Officer Daniel Stevens with 46 arrests. Officer Eric Henriquez with 46 arrests. Officer Russell Breeding with 45 arrests. Officer James Napke with 44 arrests. Officer Eric Rollins with 40 arrests. Officer Abraham Gonzalez with 38 arrests. Officer Gino Marks with 37 arrests. Officer Gabe Michael with 33 arrests. Officer Paul Naylor with 31 arrests. Officer Andrew Smith with 30 arrests. Officer Mario Nahara with 30 arrests. Officer Javier Torres with 27 arrests. Out of the CHP San Bernardino office, Anthony Uribe with 48 arrests. Officer Michael Tovson with 48 arrests. Officer Luis Gonzalez with 47 arrests. Officer Ubaldo Gonzalez with 45 arrests. Officer Charles Isidoric with 42 arrests. Officer Davon Julian Roman with 33 arrests. Officer Travis Cullen with 29 arrests. CHP San Gorgonio Station, Officer Lindolfo Martinez, 48 arrests. Officer Michael Gonzalez with 47 arrests. Officer Artemio Gonzalez, 45 arrests. Officer Morgan Peel, 42 arrests. Officer Hario Rivera, 36 arrests. Officer Matthew Napier, 34 arrests. Officer Brandon Austin, 32 arrests. And Officer Kyle Brunson, 27 arrests. Moving on to CHP Temecula Station. Officer Brent Mitchell, 32 arrests. Officer Scott Bertolotti, 30 arrests. Officer Michael Jackson, 33 arrests. Officer Luis Godinez, 30 arrests. Officer Robert Swickla, 30 arrests. Officer Raymond Perko, 27 arrests. Officer Gilbert Vila, 30 arrests. Officer Jeff Oldman, 29 arrests. Out of CHP Victorville Station, Ryan Mohat, 48 arrests. Officer Stephen Turnen, 44 arrests. Officer Kevin Jones, 41 arrests. Officer Michael Blackwood, 40 arrests. Officer Martin Lopez, 35 arrests. Officer Travis Chapman, 34 arrests. Officer Rory Tighe, 29 arrests. Officer Chris Brazil, 29 arrests. And Officer Brian Diaz, 26 arrests. Out of the Corona Police Department, Officer Michael Kushner with 29 arrests. Out of Desert Hot Springs Police Department, Sergeant Corey Carranza, 30 arrests. From the Fontana Police Department, Officer Robert Glace, 32 arrests. From the Marietta Police Department, Officer Anthony Datil, 27 arrests. Out of the Ontario Police Department, Officer Eric Wyden, 32 arrests. Officer Brandon Resendez, 31 arrests. Officer Daniel Garcia, 29 arrests. And Detective Fred Ruiz, 28 arrests. Out of the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Jurupa Valley Station, Deputy Isaias Morales, 37 arrests. And Deputy John Plager, 26 arrests. Out of the La Quinta Station for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Deputy Daniel Knight, 48 arrests. Out of the Moreno Valley Station, Deputy Jason Slover with 46 arrests. Deputy Christopher Lux with 30 arrests. Deputy Aurelian Purdy with 26 arrests. Out of the Paris Station, Officer Joshua Kale with 28 arrests. Deputy Michael DeLuna with 26 arrests. Out of San Jacinto Station, Deputy Jack Rudatigiuliano with 29 arrests. Out of the Temecula Station, Deputy Frank Opice, with 25 arrests. Out of the Rialto Police Department, Officer Melissa Valles with 47 arrests. Officer Kevin Ball with 43 arrests. Officer Dorian Kudo with 39 arrests. Officer Matthew Lopez with 39 arrests. And Officer Angel Gutierrez with 25 arrests. Out of the Riverside Police Department, Officer Greg Leon with 25 arrests, and Officer Gennaro Escobedo with 25 arrests. Out of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Rancho Cucamonga Station, Deputy Michael McDonald with 49 arrests, Deputy Giovanni Cosi Leon with 38 arrests, and Reserve Deputy Ronald Pete with 34 arrests. So please join me in a round of applause for our Deuce awardees for this year. Up next, we have the MADD Awards allotted for those law enforcement officers with 50 to 99 driving under the influence arrests. Start with the MADD Award recipients. For the CHP NDO station is going to be Officer Bradley Kemp with 73 arrests. Officer Jacob Windsor with 72 arrests. Officer Carlos Granados Aquino, 58 arrests. Officer Nolan Wilson with 58 arrests. Officer Richard Adams, 55 arrests. Officer Steve Armendariz with 54 arrests. Officer Salvador Carrillo with 54 arrests. And Officer David Torres with 53 arrests. Next is the CHP Rancho Cucamonga Station with Officer Eric Degati with 51 arrests. It's Officer Abraham Peterson with 50 arrests. Officer Stephen Rawls with 50 arrests. Out of the CHP Riverside Station, Officer Brian Seal with 80 arrests. Officer Kevin Campbell with 79 arrests. Officer Craig Moji with 73 arrests. Officer Adam Brooks with 56 arrests. Officer Anthony Renteria with 53 arrests. Officer Alex Garcia with 51 arrests. Officer Johnny Russell with 50 arrests. Out of the CHP San Bernardino Station, Officer Brian Brashear with 83 arrests. Officer Mark Bevan with 70 arrests. Officer Andy Moline with 64 arrests. Officer Martin Carrillo with 60 arrests. Officer Cody Papez with 59 arrests. Officer Jeremy Smith with 56 arrests. And Officer Joaquin Gill with 54 arrests. Out of the CHP San Gorgonio Station, Officer Emilio Saltero with 60 arrests, and Officer Kevin Simmons with 56 arrests. Out of the CHP Victorville Station, Officer Xavier Rodriguez with 53 arrests. From the Fontana Police Department, Officer Justin Summers with 80 arrests, and Officer Daniel Wells with 57 arrests. From the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Lake Elsinore Station, Deputy Mark Peterson, 53 arrests. From the Moreno Valley Station, Deputy Kevin Sequin, 74 arrests. From the Paris Station, Deputy Jess Kaibach with 52 arrests. From the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Rancho Cucamonga Station, Deputy Daniel Smith with 84 arrests. Please join me in giving these awardees a virtual round of applause. Thank you. We will now award the top arresting officers from each department. Beginning with the Banning Police Department, Officer Daniel Dusenberry with 9 arrests. Officer Roberto Jurigue with 9 arrests. From the Cathedral City Police Department, Officer Jessica Lamb with 42 arrests. From the Chino Police Department, Officer Alex Courtney with 29 arrests. From the CHP Arrowhead Station, Officer Adam Williams with 33 arrests. From the CHP Barstow Station, Officer Joshua Leonard, 36 arrests. CHP Indio Station, Officer Jeffrey Dyer with 88 arrests. CHP Morongo Basin Station, Officer Kelsey McNeely, 38 arrests. And Officer Jeff McNutt, 38 arrests. From CHP Needles, Officer Aaron Josel, 72 arrests. From the CHP Rancho Cucamonga Station, Officer Sean Erick with 56 arrests. CHP Riverside, Officer Isaac Mejia, 89 arrests. CHP San Gorgonio, Officer Brandon Hoskins with 71 arrests. From CHP Temecula Station, Officer James Heffel, 66 arrests. From CHP Victorville Station, Officer Alex Lugo with 67 arrests. From the Colton Police Department, Officer Kelvis Busey with 16 arrests. From the Corona Police Department, Officer Tim Najmolski, 36 arrests. Desert Hot Springs Police Department, Officer Todd Johnston, 80 arrests. From the Montclair Police Department, Officer Sean Mackey with 28 arrests. From the Murrieta Police Department, Officer Dale DeShepper, 32 arrests. From the Ontario Police Department, Detective Randy Barron, 36 arrests. From the Palm Springs Police Department, Officer Max Reynoso with 17 arrests. From the Riverside Community College District Police Department, Officer Ray Placentia with 14 arrests. Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Cabazon Station, Deputy Gabriel Constantini. From the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Cabazon Station, Deputy Gabriel Constantine with 5 arrests. From the La Quinta Station, Deputy Michael Scott with 49 arrests. From the Lake Elsinore Station, Deputy Perry Willow with 87 arrests. From the Moreno Valley Station, Deputy Andrew Galbraith with 80 arrests. From the Palm Desert Station, Deputy Nicole Wilthheit, 85 arrests. From the Paris Station, Deputy Jesse Maldonado, 59 arrests. From San Jacinto Station, Deputy Christopher Wheeler with 44 arrests. From the Redlands Police Department, Officer Kyle Myrick, 62 arrests. From the Rialto Police Department, Officer Scat Gaspar with 86 arrests. From the Riverside Police Department, Officer Michael Raridan, 39 arrests. From the San Marino Police Department, Officer John Phillips, 25 arrests. From the San Marino County Sheriff's Department, Apple Valley Station, Detective Corporal Roosevelt Dutra, 14 arrests. From the Big Bear Station, Deputy Emmanuel Patino, 53 arrests. From the Chino Hills Station, Deputy Jonathan Dreyer, 29 arrests. From the San Bernardino Station, Deputy Rene Oliveras, 25 arrests. From the Victorville Station, Deputy Corey Campbell with 35 arrests. And from the Upland Police Department, Officer Stephen Wino with 80 arrests. So please give these recipients a virtual round of applause for their efforts. Next up, we have our Century Award recipients. These officers had more than 100 DUI arrests in 2019. From the CHP San Bernardino office, Officer Justin Wheatley with 124 arrests. From the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Jurupa Valley Station, Deputy Michael Powell with 108 arrests. From the Temecula Station, Deputy Ryan Hansen with 104 arrests. From the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department, Rancho Cucamonga Station, Deputy Matthew Magdaleno had 112 arrests. Deputy Danny Beer, 102 arrests. Please give these recipients a virtual round of applause for being Century Award recipients. Now, the top arresting officer per county is a unique award, and it's time to honor those top deputies and officers from the Riverside and San Bernardino County areas. For the second year in a row for Riverside County, Deputy James Daughters from the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Temecula Station, had 206 DUI arrests. San Bernardino County Officer Joshua Passes from the Fontana Police Department had 202 arrests. Now, the inaugural Boating Under the Influence Award goes to the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department from the Colorado River Station. Deputy William Poe leads the state of California with 31 boating under the influence arrests for 2019. He will receive his first Boating Under the Influence 655 pin, and we appreciate Deputy Poe's efforts and dedication to keeping our waterways safe from impaired boaters. Please join me in a virtual round of applause and viewing the comments from our top arresting officers. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Deputy William Poe with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Mothers Against Drunk Driving in the Empire for the recognition today. I started my law enforcement career approximately 13 years ago with an Arizona agency where I worked waterways part-time and full-time and learned a passion for boating under the influence and the effect it has on the people on the waterways. I lateraled to San Bernardino County approximately 6 years ago, where I've been fortunate enough to continue my passion for boating under the influence, and I'm also a lead instructor for the Division of Boating and Waterways through California State Parks for boating under the influence, where we train officers from all over the state of California how to conduct a BUI investigation. Several years ago, the Mothers Against Drunk Driving in the Empire recognized the Marine Enforcement Unit for their efforts in boating under the influence enforcement on the Colorado River. Since then, we've collaborated with them to educate them in the severity of boating under the influence and the impact it has. The BUI enforcement can better be improved by having more officers out there trained for BUI investigations, and also educating the public on the severity and the consequences that come with operating your vessel impaired on the waterways.
Congratulations to all of our honorees. We have one special thank you to our law enforcement agencies from MADD California Victims and Volunteers.
Hi, this is Kat. I just wanted to take the time to thank you guys for not only protecting and serving your community, but for being such a huge part of the cure and helping us bring drunk and drugged driving to an end. Please know that your hard work and sacrifices never go unnoticed. My family and I appreciate you. We back the blue and know that we're mad about you. Thank you so much for all you do. Be safe out there.
I would like to thank the California Highway Patrol and the local police authorities for their work and all the arrests and DUIs.
Thank you for keeping our roads safe.
Thank you, officers, for keeping our roads safe and saving lives. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is all the awards that we have for you today. We want to thank all of our sponsors, supporters, volunteers, MADD staff, community leaders, and most of all, law enforcement officers who protect our roadways day in and day out. We are creating a social movement of #OneMaddCalifornia, a tribute to our 40th anniversary with you as the grassroots organization that started the cultural revolution that made drunk driving unacceptable. We ask communities to stand with MADD for #NoMoreVictims. This is a necessary opportunity to raise precious funds for the community services MADD provides. As mentioned, these services are victim advocacy for victims and survivors of drunk and/or drugged driving crashes, underage drinking prevention education for parents and teens, and working with law enforcement and/or legislators to eliminate impaired driving. MADD California staff and volunteers travel all over the Southern California region delivering these community services, all of which are free of charge to the public. Statewide supporters can support One MADD California through the phone or online. Additionally, your program books are digitally available on the site, and the event will continuously be available through this site at MADD California on Facebook and YouTube for your family and friends to view. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.